Okay, give it a few seconds. It's loading. Okay, give it a few. Okay, I believe we're live now. And it shows we have 7 people watching, so maybe we give it a couple of minutes for people to log on.
Yeah, I know a couple of my friends were just confused because it wasn't up until now. So I'm going to send out an email real quick to all the Eventbrite people.
Thanks, Lexi.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight. We're going to get started in just a second here.
We need music, huh?
Good idea.
Uh-oh, somebody looks like you might be trying to hook us up, huh? Hard to hear though. Work in the mirror, damn. Okay. Hey, I'm a little Kim fan. Come on.
Okay. You know my name.
Tell me what's the price of fame? A sinner with my skirt on the ground.
So I think we have 44 people now watching.
Save my soul from
Who was that, by the way?
Janelle Monáe. What was that?
Yeah, Janelle Monáe, and the song is called.
Oh, it's Janelle Monáe. I didn't hear you. I like Janelle Monáe.
Yeah, that's one that's featuring Erykah Badu on there too.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, Queen's pretty good.
All right, we're gonna get started here.
Yep, sounds good.
Well, I'll go ahead and do introductions or.
Yeah. And so if Amasa wants to go.
Hi, my name is Desmond Kumi. I'm a senior at ASU, majoring in business law, and I'm the president of the African American Men of ASU. My pronouns are he, his, and him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Porche. I'm a sophomore majoring in business, public service, and public policy. I'm here representing the Black African Coalition of Arizona State University. I'm their public relations chair, and my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Miranda Bernard, and I'm the co-president of the Black Graduate Student Association. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a fifth-year PhD student in the Environmental Life Sciences program at ASU.
Speak, somebody.
Hi, thank you so much for coming out. My name is Lexi Roberts. I am a junior studying mechanical engineering and political science, and I am the president of the National Council of Negro Women here on campus. And I want to thank you guys so much for coming out. And I will now introduce our amazing speaker we have here tonight. So our speaker's name is Elaine Brown. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1943. She attended a predominantly white experimental elementary school where she studied ballet and classical piano. She graduated from the Philadelphia High School for Girls in 1961. She attended Temple University for one semester before moving to Los Angeles, California. Brown joined the Black Panther Party in 1968, eventually serving as the party's first chairwoman from 1974 to 1977. Brown left the party in 1978, but has continued to work in the as a community activist. She founded Fields of Flower in 1996, a nonprofit organization dedicated to building a model of education centered for impoverished children.
Hey y'all, I am Mimi. I am a second year PhD student in the Department of Justice Studies in the School for Social Transformation. And I'm the vice president of the Black Graduate Students Association here at ASU, and I'm going to finish this introduction here. So I was prepping out for the rest of it. So Elaine Brown is also active in the realm of prison abolition and is a co-founder of both Mothers Advocating for Juvenile Justice and the National Alliance for Radical Prison Reform. She has run several campaigns for political office, including twice for Oakland, California City Council, 1973 and 1975, once for mayor of Brunswick, Georgia, 2005, and once for the Green Party's nomination for president of the United States, 2007. Brown is also an author, publishing her memoir, A Taste of Power, published in 1992, and The Condemnation of Little B in 2002, a nonfiction work about 13-year-old Michael Little B. Lewis, who was tried and convicted as an adult for murder in Atlanta, Georgia, that he did not do. So please join us and our amazing and legendary speaker, Elaine Brown, as she continues with her lecture.
Thank you. Woo! I'm so happy to be among all of you young people. I want to thank the Black Graduate Student Association of Arizona State, National Council of Negro Women, and at Arizona State, African American Men. I want to thank Black Lives Matter of Metro Phoenix. And I want to thank the Black African Coalition, all of you for bringing me, inviting me, and sponsoring my talk. And I want to point out my sister Miranda Bernard, but I also see the other people who are here, but I want to make note of your profession in the end of the day, which I consider, having read about you, I didn't know anything more, environmental environmental engineering. And I say that because it has to do with whether or not what we're going to do about Black lives, if we're going to say Black Lives Matter. That we have to do more than rail against the system, such as environmental racism, and we have to do something like seize our own destinies and put systems into place and take over the things that affect our lives. So what I'm doing today, for example, among many other things, still trying to get little B out of prison, been in the joint for 24 years now. He's 37 years old. It's really been a hard time for him. And for me, because I feel that we failed him by not getting him out by now, but we're up against, obviously, all the obvious systemic things that you all know about. I have a nonprofit called Oakland and the World Enterprises. Our main mission is to develop businesses, for-profit businesses for ownership, cooperative ownership by formerly incarcerated and other poor people, mostly Black people. And so I'm developing a housing project in West Oakland, which is still a predominantly Black neighborhood of Oakland, amazingly, even though it has been reduced through gentrification over the years. In that project, we have an environmental consultant, a sister, and she has designed our environmental program so that our building will not emit any carbons, or at least almost no carbons. And that's important because those of you who know that that's part of what pollutes our air. It isn't just a truck going by or cars and so forth. It is actual buildings. So we're going to reduce that. And we're also going to make sure that our people have almost net zero energy, so that we don't have to pay energy bills. We're pretty much off the grid because we'll have 16,000 square feet of solar panels. Now, that's only important in the sense that the kinds of things we have to do have to be more than, we have to make some decisions about what we can do if we believe that Black Lives Matter. So what I want to address is the question of whether or not Black lives matter to Black people, because I'm really not concerned about what white people think, because we pretty much are clear about that. And we should have been. After 400 years, we ought to know what the deal is here. So I want you to know I recorded an album of songs, the title of which the album was Seize the Time. And I want to show you my cover, only because it's such a wonderful cover. Can you see it? So anyway, the cover called Seize the Time, and I want to just quote you something from one of the verses of the song. It says, you worry about liberty because you've been denied. Well, I think that you're mistaken, or then you must have lied, because you do not act like those who care. You've never even fought for the liberty you claim to lack, or have you ever thought to seize the time? Time is now, seize the time, and you know how. So that is my my whole focus tonight. It's a question on whether or not we are going for the liberation of Black people, the freedom of Black people. And in order for us to say that that's what our goal is, then we have to acknowledge that we are not a free people in the United States of America. Now, that's an important acknowledgement, because people do believe that once we have 2 Jay-Z's on the billionaires list at Forbes, we have arrived, or we have a Black president or a Black vice president in the oppressive scheme of things, and then we're all right, and it looks like things are getting better, or whatever it is, and so forth. So we have to decide, what does it mean that determining the destiny of our communities and of our people. And so we look at where we are, and let's just look at what we mean by the things that affect our lives. You know how people say, your phone went out, or you're breaking up, as if you have something to do with T-Mobile or AT&T. You ain't got nothing to do with what the towers do. It's like, it's not my phone. It's a piece of plastic that I have to pay money for to be hooked up to something, but I don't have any idea what that hookup is. None, zero. And I certainly have nothing to do with it. So we have nothing to do with technology businesses at all. We're not involved. We're not in control of any technology business, and yet they affect us. Telecommunications, transportation like aviation and rail and shipping, banking and investment companies, news and entertainment, print. When we got some little, we send something out on Facebook and feel like we have some kind of contribution to make it to something. We have nothing to do with electronic media, whether it's entertainment, news, or whatever. Oil and gas and electricity, what have we to do with that? Pharmaceutical and medical corporation, nothing. Mining, manufacturing. Now, when we look at this big picture, we have to recognize that Black people are not in control of anything in the United States of America that affects our lives. Now, why is that important? How are we going to determine our destinies and talk about we are free when the very people who oppress us, that we're trying to tell them that our lives matter, they already have not even counted us unless we're consumers, and even that maybe not. So where are we today as a people, and are we thinking of ourselves collectively or individually in terms of identity, in terms of our personal lives, or are we thinking of ourselves as Black people first, which is what I'm advocating. So when we look at Black people in America, despite the fact that we're approximately 13% of the American population, a little bit, maybe more or less, whatever, we do have the highest poverty rate. We have the lowest education levels, highest homelessness, lowest home ownership, highest cancer death rates, prostate especially, and breast cancer especially, highest infant and maternal mortality rates. Who has a high infant mortality rate in a first world country? Have the highest, of course, coronavirus death rates. We have the lowest business revenues, less than or around 1% of all business revenues arise from Black-owned businesses. And of course, we know we have the highest incarceration rate. Now, that's where we are. Now, we have to recognize that, not the special ones of us who happen to have a little, leg up here or a leg up there, thanks to the blood of our people. So we have to say, Dr. King said when he was organizing the Poor People's Campaign before he was assassinated by the United States government, he assessed where we are. And he said, when I look out after everything we've done, I see that we have half of what is good and double of what is bad. Half of what is good and double of what is bad. Now, the current neoliberal analysis that permeates this society that we are occupying, that we live in, and that occupies the psyche of many Black people and the culture of the country and the political agenda, is that the oppressive status that we are under is a result of self-inflicted wounds. Now, we've heard Obama say that any number of times. There's something wrong. So we Black people, not we necessarily we here, but in a general sense, we say things like, look at the Chinese. They come here, they develop businesses, and even other Africans, Nigerians come here and they do well. And Mexicans cross the border and seem to do better than we. What is wrong with Black people? We actually ask those questions ourselves. Wouldn't you agree that you've heard this a lot? Like, what's wrong with Black people? And this is like unbelievable that we would in 2021 actually think like this, but this permeation of this neoliberal agenda to say government's not responsible for your oppression. There's no more racism, except in little things. We're going to change Aunt Jemima pancake box to the Hoobie Boo pancake box. We're going to make the same amount of money, but we're going to make you feel better. Now just go on and buy the goddamn pancake mix and be quiet about it, because that's what we're doing for you today. Now, I wouldn't say this started with Bill Clinton, but Bill Clinton gave full articulation for Black people to buy into this neoliberal idea that the government is no longer responsible for anything that happens to you or for helping you. In his first year of his presidency, Clinton was at the church in Memphis, Tennessee, where Dr. King gave his great last speech. And he actually had the nerve enough, after he thanked Bishop somebody for the barbecue, and I'm not making this up, after Clinton says, I look out and I say to myself, if Martin Luther King was standing by me now, what would be the possibility on that? If Martin Luther King was standing next to me now, what would he say? And then Clinton's going to tell us what Dr. King would say. He said, Dr. King would say, or he said, Martin would say, I died for your freedom, but look what you've done with it. Now, look at all this Black on Black crime, Clinton says, and look at all these unwed Black Black mothers, and the breakdown of the Black family. And he offered us solutions for our problem. One of them was the 3 strikes crime bill. Of course, that led to what we now call mass incarceration. We didn't even have the prison population doubled after Clinton's 3 strikes crime bill. But we embraced him. We Black, the Congressional Black Caucus, he credits the Congressional Black Caucus with having basically helped him to push that 3 strikes crime bill through. Welfare reform, same thing. So just to examine things, and we always have to examine what someone says or does, what does it mean? Martin Luther King died for our freedom, but look what we've done with it. Were we free after King died? I mean, like, do we honestly, I can recall, you all are too young, but I was alive in 1968. And on April the 3rd, Dr. King was telling us we weren't free. So I know, using him as a measure, we weren't free. Then he got killed by the government. And I woke up the next day and things seemed to be just about the same. So I thought we still weren't free. So I could only conclude that people like me slept through freedom because we'd have messed it up. And there was this one window of freedom and we messed that up with all this black on black crime, as though that is an actual form of crime. But we feel bad about it. White people ain't killing you no more. You're killing yourselves. That's what we got to have more police in the community. And we can go on and on about how that policy plays itself out. Now, so let's look at the stupidity of the incredible statement, that racist statement that this Little Rock native says to black people is something wrong with you and you need to help yourself. Get these super predator little thug boys off the street. That's your problem. You that want to have a good job and do the right thing, you all right, but these bad boys, we got to get rid of them. So we did, we went for that. These unwed mothers, these trifling Shaniquas that laying up here having babies out of wedlock, what is wrong with us? We need to condemn her. Don't give her any more welfare money. And we love that. We love the idea of that. We didn't want to, we said, why isn't she working? Why can't she get a job? How's she laying up having, we don't even like Shaniqua. Do we? We don't like Shaniqua. I remember when my daughter was at Spelman and right across the street was University Homes. And that was the era of Spelman in a time when Nikki Giovanni was popular and Sonia Sanchez and Entasaki Shange and so forth. Everybody was talking about the sisterhood and the beauty of sisterhood. But Shaniqua across the street in University Homes was not really a part of that sisterhood. We have the nerve enough to have class differences. And none of us belong to the upper class as defined by any objective standard. So we have to decide that either we believe something is inherently wrong with black people, or we believe there's something inherently wrong with America. Now, if you buy into the first part, then you figure all we got to do is fix black people, right? We'll just be fine in America. We'll be fine with our little identities. We'll be fine with our careers. And if we just pay attention and follow the rules, every once in a while you're going to have a George Floyd, but that ain't going to happen all the time. Everything is basically in place. And now we have Biden and a black woman vice president, sort of. We're okay. Even though we talk about systemic change, we don't really mean systemic change. We're all right. We would be all right with a black woman we got a black man who's now the head of the Defense Department the first time. And we're feeling good about that. It's like people trying to call Colin Powell black and having black celebrations around him. But how did we get to this place where we are in such an oppressed state? And if we don't think we are an oppressed state, then this conversation is not for you. Because this is where I'm going. 250 years of slavery. We know about 250 years of slavery, right? We generally know. So just overview, stolen from the continent. We could argue all that. European invaders, rogues, murderers, hired by the kings and queens of Europe, so forth. Our ancestors stripped of everything. So here's the part that gets me. We don't even know what country half of us came from. We're talking about doing a DNA test, like to find out if you came from Ghana or Tanzania, as if. Go ahead if you feel better about that. I'd like to know too. But the bottom line is they erased all of that a long, long time ago. Took us from our land. Took our family, we didn't have any family, no name, no culture, everything. And then didn't give us anything but bondage, barbaric bondage for 250 years. And we try to be politically correct and say, black people weren't slaves, we weren't enslaved people. Well, all right, if you feel better about that, go ahead. But our people died generation upon generation enslaved in America, picking cotton and everything else. Now this, of course, in America started out in the United States as an English colony formed by King James, called Jamestown. King James, author of the Bible. Let's make note. I'll let that sit for a minute. So the English, after they killed all the Powhatan, the native people, 30 tribes of Powhatan Confederacy, including Pocahontas' daddy, after they killed everybody, they established Jamestown, and eventually, after growing tobacco and enslaving us and all the things that we know they did, bit by bit, You had slaves, the expansion of slavery into Georgia, cotton and the rice paddies of South Carolina and so forth and so on, building up the wealth of this bastard collection of white people to the point where they were able in 1776 to tell the English, we don't care anything about England. We ain't paying you another dime because we got so much damn money ourselves, thanks to 150 years of the enslavement of African people and the labor that we produced. That's 150 years now. So they form a country, the audacity to form a country and have a fundamental tenet, all men are created equal, written by one of the biggest slaveholders in the country at the time that these white people love so much. You better not say, you could talk about Lincoln more than you could talk about Thomas Jefferson, but they're all the same, including Hamilton, a biggest slave trader of his time. I don't know why these people, oh, Miranda and Hamilton, this is embarrassing. That's not your relative, I know. Your first name is Miranda. So the guy does a play about Hamilton, who marries the chick whose father is one of the biggest slave trading operations in America. And you're going to celebrate that and put some black people on stage. Now, that's the kind of stuff we do that makes me upset. But Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the so-called Declaration of Independence, or allegedly did, all men are created equal, all of that, separating from it. Remembering that black people and African people were the only enslaved people in America. Really, and I hate to put it like this, there wasn't no, how many Chinese people were picking cotton in Georgia? You know what I'm saying? So we were not only a, quote, race identified as black, but we were a class. We were the slave class. So we're the only people, it's a convergence of of a class, an economic class, and a so-called race, which is not a scientific term anyway. But we became a slave class. And Thomas Jefferson says in Notes on the State of Virginia, I don't want to quote all of it, although I like to sometimes. Bottom line, he says, the black is inferior to the white in the endowments, inherent, in other words, endowments of both body and mind. We can't say we're equal to the black. How's the black going to be in this experiment of ours when he is inferior inherently? So from that point on, it was continuing slavery all through 77. They write the Constitution. People are like, the Constitution says this. It makes me go crazy when black people start quoting the Constitution as if it has something to do with you. As if this is your country. It's like, how can you be around a Confederate flag? How can you be around the American flag? It's the same flag. I don't get it. So we continue on to be a slave class, building up the economy of America, our humanity dismissed, not even a question, because we've now been defined as inherently inferior by every single little law and all kinds of little stuff like this. And then comes this railroad lawyer named Abraham Lincoln. Remember, he was a corporate railroad lawyer when he started out, right? And he had a plan to expand the country through rail lines, amazingly. Isn't that amazing? And he introduced a new economic foundation, moving away from agrarianism to industrialization. He did not want to expand slavery because he wanted white people to get paid in these new industrial jobs, and a free laborer would be in great competition with a paid white. Because Lincoln said, look, I like any man believe in the superiority of the white. So this is not about, I'm worried about black people. No, I'm saying this is not going to work for us to continue to expand the country and have slavery. So those people that were in the slave-holding states said, well, now just a minute, now we're making too much money for this. We're not allowing this. So they decided to secede and declare war. And just to give you an example, the Mississippi secession, state of Mississippi secessionist statement was, quoting, the end of slavery is the end of civilization itself. Now, that's some gall, right? They actually said that. But by 1863, the Confederacy is actually winning the war. Lincoln didn't think they could manage that. They had Jefferson Davis as a president. They had a whole structure going on, and they were winning the war. So he says, we're going to have to change the tide of war. I'm issuing a necessary war measure by freeing the slaves in the seceding states. Now, Lincoln, you're not the president of the seceding state. They got a president. His name is Jefferson Davis. So you were freeing the slaves in the seceding states, but if you stayed in the Union, hey, I don't have a problem with it. Now that was Lincoln, whose birthday is today, by the way. I think, well, back in the day, we didn't have President's Day. People celebrate the presidents now, but anyway. And so by 1865, the tide of war changes because Black people are like, hey, we're free. They heard the news. They start following Sherman. Sherman burns Atlanta. I love to tell people of Atlanta that Sherman burned Atlanta and then marched on with thousands of Blacks behind him to the sea in Savannah. War was over. Sherman said, what are you going to do with all these former slaves? Not that Sherman was concerned about slavery, but Sherman was a war general. That's all, because he went on to kill everybody Native American to open up the West. But while he was there, he said, look, these people have to have some way to start over or start. Give them 40 acres, field order number 15, right? We all should know that. Give them 40 acres. People go in a mule. It didn't say a mule, but let's say 40 acres each. And the new president, Andrew Johnson, said, that's not going to happen. These good white people, you're not going to take these good white people's land. And that ended that. And in the meantime, the 11 Confederate states, the former Confederate states, what do? They pass a series of laws. Now that Black people are free and the 13th Amendment is in the wind or about to be passed, and their laws are collectively known as the Black Codes, right? Black Codes. And what do the Black Codes do? They identify Black people by being Black. Just Black, and so these are gonna be the Black Codes, and they're gonna govern Black life. Now, most people think the big deal was a Black man looking at a white woman. No. It's a Black man without a job. Now, how are you going to have a job in 1865 when just yesterday you were a slave over on Master Johnson's plantation? You can't, right? And so as a result, you were punished, put on the chain gang to build up the new economy, industrialization. Put down those railroad lines, go to that steel mill, start making that, go into the coal mines. That's what we did. We were re-enslaved. We were re-enslaved. Now, why am I saying this at this point? Let's look at the arc of history up to that point, 1865, and what do we see after the 13th Amendment, 14th, 15th, whatever? Not one policy, not one action was implemented to bring former slaves into either citizenship or human rights. Nothing. We lost a little 40 acres and there hasn't been a policy since to give us any land. We've been sitting here since the year one, hoping somebody gonna help us and deliver us from evil, because we certainly have been in evil. So for 250 years, we did all of this work and reparations. That's like, oh, we're gonna have a conversation now. No money, no land, nowhere to go. Can't go back to Africa. Don't even know where we're from. Don't know where to go. And we wandered the land and were picked up and arrested and put on chain gangs and so forth. So we fought to survive. That's all we could do. We fought to survive. We didn't fight for freedom. We fought to survive. Plessy versus Ferguson became the rule of the land. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Plessy was a very light-skinned Negro who tried to get on a train with white people in New Orleans. And of course, he knew that he was going to be put off like Rosa Parks. So they arrested him, yada, yada. And he goes up to the Supreme Court with two arguments. His first argument was, I'm mostly white. Why should I sit with Black people? That was Plessy's first argument. And the court said, Plessy, we're not buying that. You're Black. Do you have something else that you want to tell us? Because as far as we concerned, you're Black, okay? And then Plessy said, well, I paid the same amount of money, but yet you want me to sit in this inferior car back with the luggage and the animals or something, when I should be sitting where the white people are, sit where they paid the same thing I paid, no more. And the court says, you're right, Plessy, but we can't force these good white people who only yesterday saw you as a slave, we can't force them to embrace you. So what we're gonna say is, as long as that the cars can be segregated, as long as they're equal. Now, a lot of people thought that was a good idea, especially white people, because who was building equal cars for Black people? That would be nobody. So the fight for integration becomes one fight, but you got Booker T. Washington saying, well, I'm not going to worry about getting on a car with white people. I'm going to build my own car. I'm going to build my own institution. We're going to build our own educational center. We're going to build our own, get our own money. Yes, he went to white people. Where else are we going to go to get money? But in the meantime, the NAACP, co-founded by white people, said, no, we got to improve ourselves. You had Du Bois talk about the talented 10. Well, we just need to bring our people up to speed so we can have access and be equal and integrate with white people. That will be our way of doing it. You had anti-lynching. Don't work where you can't. Don't shop where you can't work. Not that we had any money. You had the Nation of Islam. You had Marcus Garvey, of course, building the biggest Black organization that ever existed in America, talking about economic independence. And then you had the Nation of Islam following up on Marcus Garvey in the 50s, by the time Hoover had destroyed Garvey and so forth. And then we went through all the other fights that we went through, fighting every single step of the way, bloodshed every single step. When people talk about, well, I'm not here on affirmative action, you everywhere because of affirmative action. You are everywhere because your people bled for you. Every little thing we ever achieved was because we bled for it. And if you don't believe it, I'll take you on back to all the different ways that we did that. Then we formed things like the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that Dr. King was a moral voice of, after Rosa Parks, 1954 Supreme Court decision in Brown. We fought for education, 1955 Montgomery bus boycott. We fought to get a seat on a bus. We fought for the vote with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Stokely Carmichael, Rab Brown, so forth. Fought for the vote with the great Fannie Lou Hamer, my personal hero, who led the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. And ultimately in 1964, Lyndon Johnson, one of the most racist legislators at the time, who had become president after Kennedy was killed in Texas. You have Lyndon Johnson forcing through the Civil Rights Act. So we now have the right to sit at a Woolworths and drink a Coke with a white person and pee in the same toilet with a white person. That's what we achieved with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and the 65 Voting Rights Act gave us the right to vote. Now, when you're 13% of the population, let's figure that one out, how meaningful that is. And that is it. Those two pieces of legislation have been our biggest achievement since we were brought over here kicking and screaming from the continent in the 1600s. Now we have to recognize that, because we have to stop thinking that we celebrate. Let me celebrate somebody got a job, they get the cover of Ebony magazine or whatever the magazine is, or whatever online magazine there might be. Oh, Hoobie Boost just sold 8 million records. But we think these things as achievements for our people, when they're achievements that somebody's allowed because white people making a lot of money from it. Now, King asked the question at that time, where do we go from here? And that's when he said, I see that we have half of what is good and double of what is bad. Now, in that moment, generally speaking, in 1966, the Black Panther Party was born. We developed what we called the Freedom Agenda, and we became what we called revolutionaries. Now, what was our difference? We were, frankly, ideologically, we were Marxist-Leninists. Now, some people get nervous when they hear, they go, Marx was a racist. And as Huey liked to say, Marx wasn't a Marxist, just like Jesus wasn't a Christian. So we're not worried about who Marx was. We're worried about an ideology that will set us free, because we studied all the philosophers. We became dialectical materialists, meaning that we analyze things not from a spiritual or ethereal point of view, but from a material point of view. Objective as we can be. But we recognize that our core goal, which was freedom for Black people, could not exist in the existing capitalist structure, which had been the very structure that had oppressed us, okay? So it's kind of stupid to say, I'm gonna go to Massa and ask Massa to free me, you know what I'm saying? Which we do very often when we go to the district attorneys and we say, we want justice. We want justice for Breonna Taylor, and got a Negro blocking the way. We want justice. You going to the very people that support the police that killed her and asking them for justice. It's almost incredible when you think about it. So we said we can't find our freedom in the existing structure, that we had to take down this structure and develop something new. Now, we sometimes arrogantly thought we, the Black Panther Party, could do it, but in the end of the day, we could not. we recognized that our real goal as a vanguard revolutionary organization was to create the conditions, was to try to organize every single day. So we created survival programs, for example, free food. Why? To show our people that you had a right to food. This was not a privilege. Everybody, you will die if you don't eat. It's not complicated. So someone denying you food because you don't have the money is putting a death sentence on you. You don't have medical care. We have free medical clinics to show our people that we had the right to have medical care for free. For free. We also had our self-defense ideology, which we believed every single day of the week. Everybody was on weapons training. Just so you know, women and men, wasn't no gender issue on weapons training. Everybody had to be trained. It does kind of create an equal playing field, by the way. We created domestic coalitions with other other organizations that had represented people that were poor and oppressed. We helped to start and form a coalition with AIM, the American Indian Movement, with all of the things that AIM went through and still going through the Native people. We helped to form a coalition with the Brown Berets, which was a Chicano organization out of LA, starting in LA, with the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican organization out of Chicago and New York. Even the Young Patriots, poor whites coming up out of Mississippi and Kentucky, ridge running poor white people, but they understood that they had one thing in common with us: no money, poor. And we created international coalitions, particularly in Africa, with liberation struggles at Frelimo in Mozambique, with ZANU in Zimbabwe. We even had people, we not only supported them with lip service, but we put money into these organizations. And in some cases, we put people in these struggles, actual people fighting. And with the PAC, not to be confused with the ANC in South Africa, the PAC, the Pan-Africanist Congress. And we supported and had a relationship with the Irish Republican Army. We were the ones who gave big support to Bernadette Devlin, who became the first IRA Sinn Féin representative in the parliament. We did that with the Shining Path out of Peru, and so forth and so on. We also had relationships with revolutionary governments in the world, in China, in Cuba, in North Korea, as it's called, which we don't call it North Korea, and in North Vietnam. Of course, you can imagine, long before this happened, the government of the United States began to call us the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States. And we weren't a threat because we had guns, but we had plenty of guns, believe me. But we weren't a threat because we had guns and were organized and that we would defend ourselves with. We were a threat because we were affecting the minds of people, that people were starting to call for revolutionary change. And we were reaching across the borders and reaching across the so-called ethnicities and so forth, and recognizing that it was the mass and mass alone, as Mao Zedong said, who will create the revolution. And that was our goal. Now, needless to say, we did resist, but we were beaten up pretty badly. I'll give you an example. In 1969, they told us we're going to be the last year of the Panther Party. And they ended that year with the assassination of Fred Hampton by the FBI, and with an assault on the Black Panther Party office where I came from in Los Angeles. You had 200 and some SWAT team members. We had never heard of the SWAT team. They were formed to get rid of the Black Panther Party, and you can look into that history and verify what I'm saying. And we had 11 comrades in the office that fought them for 5.5 hours, 9 brothers, 2 sisters, fought 200 members of the SWAT team and did not die. Now, we're pretty tough, but we don't want to keep on doing that because that was kind of hard on everybody. Ultimately, though, we did collapse at the weight of our efforts. So the question is, where have we gone from there? Now, we know now what the status of Black people is since the demise of the Black Panther Party. So let me begin to close down by saying this. If Black Lives Matter, as we like to say, what are we doing about that? What do we want? Do we want freedom, or do we just want another a piece of the American pie where we're recognized as Black people and we're all right with that? And I said that. Is our agenda about individual identity and individual wealth? Do we have an agenda for Black people as a people? Are we willing to make any sacrifices for the freedom of our whole people? If we believe in freedom, we should go to bed every night and ask, what did I do today to advance the cause of Black liberation? Did I put any real work in? Did I remain silent when it was time to speak? Did I step back when it was time to step up? Did I go to a rally and call it a day? Did I put out a Twitter denouncing Donald Trump or Joe Biden or somebody else, some other irrelevant statement that you made on Twitter and feel good about myself? What have I actually done about Breonna Taylor or George Floyd or anyone like that other than put a T-shirt on or paint Black Lives Matter somewhere? Even if I threw a few rocks at America, and I'm all right with that, if it's strategic and meaningful, you know. I have to digress for a minute. There were some people here in Oakland that got, Black people that got upset because somebody had burned down the Target. And I'm like, are you serious? I had to go into that mode. Are you like serious? But anyway, I was like upset because we didn't have anything like Neiman Marcus to burn down. We just had Target. You know, Oakland's so damn poor, we don't have department stores. But anyway, so you threw a few rocks. What can I do for my people? Ought to be something we ask ourselves. And what must I do for my people? And I'm going to close by quoting one of our great Black Panther heroes, Fred Hampton, our comrade, wonderful brother. And I'm just going to quote what he said and close with that. He said, you know, I'm not going to die slipping on no ice. I ain't going to die in no airplane crash. I'm going to die for the people because I live for the people, because I love the people. Power to the people. Thank you very much. I see silent clapping. I'm clapping too. All right. I stayed within the time, I hope. I'll take any questions. I prefer not to take personal questions, but I don't mind because I'm not scared of nobody. I'm too old to be scared.
Well, I'm muted.
Yes, hello, Miss Elaine. Thank you so much for that.
Now, who's talking? Because I'm having, is this the group that's Black Lives Matter Phoenix? Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude. It's just I want to look at you. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, my name is Keisha with Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro, an autonomous chapter here in Arizona designed after the Black Panthers. And I'd love to just kind of ask you some questions, a question specifically about, you know, the nature of organizing. A lot of our comrades have been arrested and prosecuted for exercising their right to protest and peacefully assemble here in Arizona. And we have members who are now being charged with gang charges for standing up and saying that Black Lives Matter. And so in light of the Maricopa County's office in Phoenix, they're doing regarding political persecution, what were some of the techniques and strategies or advice that you could give us towards the political persecution of our members?
Don't you have that, wasn't that guy, that crazy guy, that Maricopa sheriff? What's his name?
Sheriff Pyle. Yeah, that's where we.
He's like the craziest, I can't curse too much on here. I curse all the time. So he's like the craziest person on the planet. So I don't have to say anything about him. Or is he still in office? Or?
No, he's not in office anymore, but the person.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing. Let me tell you something. You know, these people change hands and they act like, oh, we made progress. Now we got Negro, whatever his name was, or white boy, whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's interchangeable. And one of the things that happened to us a lot in the beginning was that we would get arrested for day-to-day bullshit, if you'll pardon my language, because you don't want to get arrested for being at a rally, because now it's all about you being at the rally as opposed to what the rally was about in the first place. So we lose sight of the issue and we become the issue. And that's not a good thing, you know, because we want to focus on what we were there for in the first place. So now we got to do free somebody. And I used to get stopped almost every other day by the police, and they would spread eagle us. And I'd be like, and they'd be like, you don't have any problem with that, do you? No, with that gun to my head, I have no problem whatsoever. I'm worried about your hand shaking or something like this, you know? So the way that you do it is you got to minimize that kind of conflict because you will be diverted from what you really want to do. They'll have you paying bails, paying lawyers. You'll be embroiled in day-to-day conflict that is now, you know, you lost sight of whatever it was you intended to do. I mean, they would do things like say the Black Panthers have poisoned the children's food in Watts, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like this. So they stop us and take us to, I remember going to a sheriff's department and they had a banner. It was an actual cloth banner and it said, Pigs 11, Panthers 0. They tried to demoralize us. But we never tried to make ourselves central, but we ended up having free this one, free that one. You had Erica and Bobby. Look at that case. That cost us $1 million or more, the Erica and Bobby case. So what did we learn from that? What I learned is to minimize that kind of thing so that you can maximize some of the other stuff. So some stuff got to be, without recognizing that we're talking in an open space that anybody could be listening to, has to be done on the down low, and some stuff. So you have like what we call the above ground, the below ground. You have the political message, and then you have the party message. In other words, you have your message saying, down with Sheriff Hoobie Boo, whatever his name was, right? But in the meantime, you don't know what might be happening. People might not know, but you have to be having some other strategies. So my only advice, and I don't know what it's worth, is to do your best to avoid the day-to-day thing, which is not easy. I'm not saying that's like that, so that you can focus on what you intend to accomplish. Because what happened to us was this: people became afraid of the Panthers. They were like, every time the Panthers turn around, they getting arrested. Every time they come into our neighborhood, the police raid something, I lose my dope. You know what I mean? It's like, these people are creating problems for us. You know what I'm saying? So you want to not be so far ahead of the masses that they can't see what you just did, so that they can be embraced. So if you're going to say, well, look, what is the issue? What is the issue? And the issue has to be on the ground with our people. It has to be, what is it that our people need, like housing or food, so that you can tie yourself to that, something other than policy, but something concrete. And in the meantime, do your best, because you're going to spend money, time, and effort trying to get out of jail, arguing about, this. And this is why they do it, so that you will be caught up. This is exactly what the point is. Y'all want to have a little rally? Let me go over here and knock somebody upside the head. Oh, you mad about that? Okay, well, now I'm going to knock another person upside the head. Now we're protesting being knocked upside the head. You know what I'm saying? So we tend, because we get angry, and we have to be more strategic, ruthless, as Karl Marx said, ruthless in our analysis. And ruthlessness means, I can't say because I don't want to talk like this on this call, but the bottom line is, have several agendas. One for the mass line, and one you're going to say on TV. Then you have one you might not want to say to everybody. And then you have a third one perhaps, that you have with the people that you trust. And you can't trust everybody, obviously, because especially people, the first thing you want to ask is somebody talking about, let's go storm City Hall. Well, I want to see you get out there right this minute. Let's go off a pig. I've actually heard that, okay? Well, I'm going to wait for you to do that, brother. And when I see you pull that trigger, we're going to be good. But I don't think you're going to do it because you're trying to give me a case. You follow me? Somebody trying to get you a case. So all of those are strategies that you have to be practical about, because you want to live to fight another day. I knew Jonathan Jackson. I wish he were alive. I watched him walk into the Marin County Courthouse, in a magazine. I was in Vietnam, believe it or not, at the time. But I knew Jonathan. I would rather he be alive than be dead, to live to fight another day. Of course, when we talk about hands up, don't shoot, that's what Jonathan did. He pulled out that M1 carbine, threw them guns around, and helped put the police with hands up, don't shoot. So I was proud of him. He's a hero in the universe of the Black Panther Party. But his strategy got him killed, because we don't want you to die. Now, Fred Hampton, that's another story. So we have to look at strategy, because it's important that you live to fight another day, because this ain't gonna happen overnight. It didn't happen so far overnight. You gotta be ready for the long haul. Look, I'm gonna be my birthday is March the 2nd, I'll be 78, right? And I'm still walking around here talking shit. You follow me? Pardon the audience that didn't like that, I'm sorry. But anyway, what I'm saying is, you want to go for the long haul. We don't want you to be dead. We want you to live, not to live just to live with them, but to live to fight another day, learn some new strategies, do some new shit. I don't know, I've learned a lot over these years, and every single day I learn some more. And I miss my comrades. I miss the people that I watched die. Bunchy and John and Fred Hampton was my comrade and my friend. I'm one of the people that knew these people. And all the other comrades that gave their lives to our struggle. I wish they were alive. I wish George Jackson were alive today. All of that. So stay alive, young people. I don't mean stay alive by giving in, by pandering, by kissing ass. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about stay alive strategically so that you can fight another day and organize some more Black people into the work that will free us. Okay? I ain't got no instant answer though.
Thank you for answering that question. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have any more?
Yes, we have tons of questions from the
Oh,
audience.
do we? Oh, goody.
Miranda and I are going to rotate through for you. So first we have Michelle Heller. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. Do you recall a specific moment in your life that ignited this fire in you to be a voice and make a difference for the Black community? A fire that still burns brightly today? Question mark.
I absolutely do recall that moment. And I like to talk about it. I'm not going to take a lot of time so I can take more questions. But when I thought I was not Black, like, in other words, I was like above Black. You know, I was like Obama or somebody, you know what I mean? Condoleezza Rice, some old Negro like that, right? And we have to acknowledge when we make a transition. We have to acknowledge we grew up in white America. And you got to make a decision to be Black almost, right? But in your generation, you might have had a parent, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I had a history in the hood, obviously, but I got away from that. And I was just walking around living in dreamland thinking, you know, I wasn't like the other Black, because white people told me that. They told me, they said, you're not like other Black people. You don't even talk like them. All of you have heard that, so don't act like you don't acknowledge what I'm saying. And you have to be ambivalent about, wait a minute, is that a compliment? So I was living in Westwood, which is a very upscale area of Los Angeles where UCLA is located. And there was a Black woman in my building, a Beverly Bruce, and she had an afro. And she had on some African-y clothes, you know what I mean? And she was the first, so she said to me, how you doing, sister? I looked around to see who the hell she's talking to because I was not her sister, okay? So she heard me playing piano and she said, oh, can you teach piano to some kids? I've got a class in Watts. I'm getting my master's degree, whatever she said. And I thought, this is a great thought. I can do some charity work. And I literally thought of it as charity work. And then as we drove down to Jordan Downs projects, I've started to get nervous because it looked like the James Weldon Johnson homes that I had lived in, that I had written out of my story. You know what I mean? I wrote out the James Weldon Johnson homes. I wrote out York Street. I wrote out a lot of stuff. I was just this person who appeared, right? And I saw these buildings. I was starting to get nervous. This stuff started to make me, well, I don't need to be down in here. I need to go back up to Westwood where I feel at home, you know? And I walked in the door and there's these little girls, they about 8, 9 years, 7, 8, 9, that age group. They're all looking at me like, I have my little piano primers, my Johnson piano primers. And they had this little rickety piano and they're looking at me like I'm a salvation. Like if I teach them piano, something's gonna happen. You living like you're living like shit, excuse me. You living in a project, you don't have any money. Ain't these piano lessons not gonna save you? You need something more. How do I know that? Because I know you, how do I know you? And this is when it just killed me. I know you because I am you. I am you. And I forgot me. And I could never unknow that moment. I could never unknow that. I don't unknow it today. It moves me today. I know you because I am you. And I know what we needed. It ain't no goddamn piano lessons from nobody named Miss Brown. You living in Jordan Down, living like hell. I told him I couldn't come back there because I didn't want to look at Jordan. That was a mirror I did not want to hold up to myself. You follow me? But again, I went back and then I write a chapter in my book called Becoming Black. And I've just flipped completely around and immersed myself. And ultimately, I ran into a man named Bunchy Carter, who was the founder of the Southern California chapter. And if I may, because I like to do this, I went to this thing and there was all these super Black Negro walking around. You know, we had poetry readings too, you know, had the poetry. You used to call it the slam. I don't know what people call it now. But we had a lot of poetry going on there. Everybody was Black. And so Bunchy showed up at this poetry reading. There were like maybe 75, 100 people in the room. bust through the doors. He got about 20 brothers with him. They're strapped like a mother. I mean, it was a brother with a sawed-off shotgun and a shoulder holster. We were like, good God Almighty, what is this? So it was on and popping at that moment. Everybody with their little poems felt like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure a poem is going to be adequate for this. And so then Bunchy Carter says a bunch of things. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. We're here. We formed this chapter. Yada yada. You better have a picture of Huey P. Newton in your living room. He was saying all that stuff. He had all that swag. He's from the street. He's from the gang. And then he said, somebody said, well, Bunchy has some poems. Why don't you say a poem? So I'm going to say one piece of a poem that he had, if you don't mind. And that finishes out the second half of my education as a Black person, which wasn't long after that other period. And Bunchy had this poem. He called it Black Mother. And so he was very stylized. He had all that swag, you know, he just had a way of talking. He said, Black mother, I must confess that I still breathe, though you are not yet free. What could justify my crying start? Forgive my coward's heart, but blame me not, the sheepish me, for I've been sleeping in a deep, deep sleep. And I be hazed and dazed and vipers fester in my hair. Black mother, I curse your drudging years, the rapes, heartaches, sweat and tears. But I swear on siege night, dark and gloom, a rose I wear to honor you. And when I fall, a rose in hand, you'll be free. And I am man for a slave of natural death who dies. Can't balance out the two dead flies. I'd rather be without the shame, a bullet lodged within my brain, Black mother. That turned me around. But I was ready to hear it. So that was a real moment in my life. Thank you for asking. Pretty tough poem, huh?
Definitely. Thanks for sharing those moments. This next question from the Mother-Daughter Initiative kind of gets at community a bit as well. The question is, what do you feel has contributed to the breakdown of the Black family? Why don't we look out for each other? It seems like there is a have and have not mentality.
Yeah, well, the breakdown of the family, if we look at the family structure as is a patriarchal model, you know, which is not necessarily a family, right? Patriarchal model is not necessarily a family. But that breakdown came when them ships started sailing out of Africa, bringing us here. We haven't had any opportunity. When did we have family in the field? You know, it's like people talking about, well, this and that, what I think about me. Well, all right, what you think about you, but I don't know what you thought about you when you were picking cotton in, in Georgia. And you had nothing about you that was human. I mean, you probably did what you could do. People did. Our people survived. We some of the baddest people on the planet to have survived all that we survived. But the reality is we had no family sense other than each other. Now, everything we've had since we've been in America has come from and through this white man. It has. Our very definition. That's why we still talking about color. And we still talking about all kinds of stuff about each other. We have the nerve enough to have these little class differences. But that's because we've always measured ourselves according to this white man and Massa tells us if we're all right. Massa says, you're the kind of Black person I like. You're the kind of Black person I don't like. And we start turning on each other because Massa enables us and tells us, and we don't have nowhere to go because we don't own or control anything. So everything he says, Massa told us, like, we had to fight to have hairstyles just to get a job, but we fought for other stuff to get a job, and it goes on and on and on. And we're still dealing with hair questions. We're still dealing with color questions. We're still dealing with so many issues. And we know this all arises from our enslaved condition. We embrace the white man's culture. We haven't decided. It takes a hell of a thing to say, look here, I see so many people. I work in the hood. We're supposed to be two gangs. We never have any problem because we're feeding people, and they come to our farm. We had a farm with all formerly incarcerated workers on it. They're being paid $20 an hour, just so you know. So it's not like we ain't no free work, ain't no slave work. So anyway, point is, we have embraced the culture and the dictates of society that never meant for us to live in it. You follow me? And so consequently, we see each other as bad and evil. We have to actually make conscious decisions to break down the barriers that have been built against us, because how else do you keep us enslaved? By keeping us divided. We still are divided along a number of lines. I mean, here's Lil Wayne, ugly as sin, talking about, I'm not Black, I'm rich. Negro, you not only are Black, but you're not rich. You're ghetto rich. You're not rich. Let me tell you who's rich. It's not you. You got money because this white man let you make money with your little ugly self. I will not that I ever did. So here's Lil Wayne talking about I'm not, and then taking a picture with Donald Trump. Yeah, that's right. He did. You look it up. So my point is, these divisions have all come because in the end of the day, the big poobah, the Wizard of Oz is the white man. And he measures us and defines whether we're educated or not educated, whether we're okay, whether we're not okay. We got to find a way out, and it's up to you guys that are leaders to begin to break down those barriers and say, look, yes, I've got a PhD in something, but this is my sister, this is my brother. Yes, I'm light, I'm dark. She got straight hair, she got straightened hair, she got whatever it is. We cannot allow ourselves these little petty ass divisions. And those of us who are conscious have got to help to break down those barriers by now what we did. And finally, about just a point on this, at UCLA, when we were at UCLA, we spent the time there. The last thing we did was go to class, but we spent the time there taking, for example, all the food that was in a dormitory cafeteria that they didn't eat, we took it back to the community. But then we started bringing the community up to UCLA. They got a swimming pool. How many? Does Arizona State? You got what? 5 campuses in Phoenix, right? How many swimming pools y'all got? I don't know. But you could say we're going to have a summer program and we're going to take over the swimming pool. Now that might not seem very radical, but believe me, you'll find yourself in a little bit of trouble, but you'll begin to bring the community, that is to say the people who don't even know that there are Black college students. And believe me, I have met people who have lived right near a university that don't realize that Black people actually go to school there and study things like medicine. Really, I'm serious. And you all know what I'm saying, right? So my point is, there are things that we can do who are conscious to begin to break down those barriers, so that we're not judging each other based on the white man's measure, but based on our common interest in freedom. We can do that. The Black family is not broken down. It's that the Black family never got built up in any particular way. And we might as well be a family, listen, whether it's a mother and 14 children that belong to Shaniqua had a child by somebody's on drug, whatever the bull is, let us embrace each other and not just be white people feeding the homeless in the little homeless encampments. That stuff make me want to throw up. Let us feed people. Let us have after school programs, whatever it is that we can do to connect ourselves back in whatever configuration, because we are and have to see ourselves as a people and therefore a family.
Dr. Brown, amazing insight so far.
I'm not no doctor, but go ahead. Wait, I've been to 3 colleges. Wait, I just have to say this, Brother Desmond. I've been to 3 colleges and 1 law school and don't have a degree to show for it, but do go on.
Well, we still appreciate you giving us insight so far. I'm happy that you brought up Lil Wayne and your personal opinions. I want your take on Black music and the evolution overall, from funk to jazz to rap, because music generally was a sense of us unifying over our struggles, but conquering our struggles through unification, through a community. But now you've seen the evolution of rappers and different artists flexing on each other, trying to prove who's the best and who's getting this and that off of materialistic things. I like how you brought up Lil Wayne from, I guess, distinctifying what's wealth versus ghetto wealth and things like that. So I just want your overall take of the music, the messages portrayed and all that sort.
Well, I'm so glad you asked me, because I am a musician. I think of myself as a musician in the sense that I think of myself as there's a deeper part of me if I had an individual identity that was separate from being a Black person and what I need to do for our people. But I do love to sing and play the piano, write my own little songs. Alicia Keys has become somewhat of a friend of mine, and we bond on the issue of sitting down at the piano, singing our own little songs, and we're just happy with that. Okay, and happy to have a place to sit down at the piano and all that other stuff. But music has been, of course, a part of our culture. The only original music America has is jazz, which is our music. America's not an original. These Europeans were European trash, you know. They didn't come up with any intelligent music. Whatever European classical music they're talking about is back to somebody, you know, when we talk about Beethoven being black or whatever, that's not important. But the point is the music of America arises mostly from blacks. Look at Scott Joplin and all that. So music is absolutely an important piece of the equation here. Now, when you go back to the field work songs, you know, from slave work songs and, you know, things that we did to survive, look at all the songs that were going on during the so-called civil rights, which wasn't really a civil rights movement. We singing, oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. We love stuff like that. When we were in the Black Panther Party, beyond the albums that I did in terms of actual songs, we used to say things like, and this will get you started too. It was a chant, but it was more like a song. We would say, the revolution has come, off the pig. Time to pick up the gun, off the pig. Now that had a message to it, you know what I mean? People started singing that bad boy. They had a whole other perspective on life. I love music. I love all the music that our people produce. I don't actually think I have some classical music, believe it or not, but I think that and I have a lot of songs and CDs and albums and stuff on my phone and whatever else. And I have like all black music. You know, like I was crying when Mary Wilson died. Like we can't dismiss stuff like the Supremes. Someday we'll be together, you know, all that. So it goes all on and on. I absolutely love it. And rap, remember, was almost the filler for the time of the Black Panther Party and something else. Remember, you had people like Ice-T before he started playing a cop. He was singing, you know, I got in my ride with my stuff by my side, whatever. He was singing Cop Killer. Then he placed it. They said, oh, no. I know goddamn well you're not planning on singing Cop Killer again. And that took Ice-T all of about 10 more minutes to flip into playing a cop on TV. When you had some of that original rap, at least in LA, when I was there, and you had the beginning of some of this gang, you had this, not gangster rap, before that, before Snoop Dogg popularized irrelevant lyrics like in gangster rap, you had people actually talking about something. Before that, you had the last poets, of course, right? One of the last poets was a brother named Felipe Luciano, the only non-black, quote unquote, but he was black and Puerto Rican, who started the New York Young Lords. So you had the last poet, you had rap coming, Africa Bambara. All of that is wonderful to me. I love it because I'm a poet. I thought I was a poet and I realized I wasn't a really great poet. So I started putting music to it, but really I thought I was a poet. You know, so I'm all for all of that, but I would like it to have more messages. I would like it. I mean, sometimes a message could get boring. I told you I like Lil' Kim. Now, there's one album that she did. Yes, that's right. I said Lil' Kim. There's one album that she did a long time ago now called The Naked Truth. And in it, she talks about how these Negroes betrayed her. And she has so many lines. I can't quote some of it because obviously it's a little rough. But she talks about how she was betrayed, but she stood strong. And even though she's not a, quote, feminist per se, she was as strong as any woman could be because she did time in the joint from the betrayal of these men. And she told them, and I can do the time because I'm from Brooklyn and all the stuff that she says on Naked Truth that I happen to like and I can't. There's so many lines I can't quote, I forgot. But anyway, I love all of it, even if it's not a message exactly on point. But if it has something to do with the community. And in the beginning, a lot of the rappers did talk, even Lil Wayne coming out of New Orleans, talked about the poverty, talked about, then they got too big to talk about. It's like Jay-Z, what is it? What's he talking about these days? I don't know. You know, talking about being a corporate leader. You're not no corporate leader. You know, you couldn't even defend a brother that was charged with stealing a belt out of Macy's or wherever the hell it was. So you could have been putting up money, taking your money, Jay-Z, and putting it back into the BK like you like to say you came from, claiming that you was a dope boy. Take your money and create manufacturing and stuff for your people to have money. Create housing. You didn't do any of that. So what I'm disturbed by is the money people who don't even share the money. Now, I'm not even going to deal with the Oprah Winfrey set. Because that's just like, I don't know what Oprah Winfrey, what is she? But anyway, I'm talking about like the musicians and so forth that we do. Now, you know, right now, just so you know, Brother Desmond, I did an album, believe it or not, on Motown Records called, it was, yeah, that's right. Can you believe that? Called Black Forum. I'm reacting to my sisters over here in Black Lives Matter. So if nobody knows what I'm reacting to, they're cracking me up. So I'm like looking at them. I'm gonna stop looking at you guys. But anyway, so I did this album, and it was called Until We're Free, even though they didn't, but it was called Motown. But the main thing was a Black Forum label. Now this is 1972, 73. Can you believe they are now relaunching Black Forum label? And I'm the only woman that's on the label. And it's all so-called spoken word, but guess what you have? 2 speeches that Dr. King allowed Berry Gordy to record. You have Langston Hughes reading poems on the Black Forum label. So they're gonna reissue it, and I have this album out, and a friend of mine, a woman who became my friend named Suzanne DePass, she produced this album, she got the producers. And so I believe in using music as a tool, art as a tool, but not as just like people say, well, are you a revolutionary artist? But I mean, Emory Douglas was an artist, but he was a revolutionary first, and then he was an artist, you know. Or are you a black? Like people say, are you black or are you an artist? I've heard black people who are painters say, I'm an artist first. No, you're not. You're black. Okay, you're black first. Ask the police what they think about your artwork. But anyway, so I love music, and I think it can be an absolute tool. It's not the only tool, but it's in our tool to organize our people. If only we had some real, like some rappers from back in some of those earlier days to really do some stuff. I saw a sister named No Name. You know her? No Name. And she said some real interesting stuff, but I don't know what she's got out there, but I saw some interesting stuff that she said. So we need to remember that we can use everything we have should be used as a tool. When we were in the Black Panther Party, we dressed. We changed our whole dress line around to organize. Black people, we were like black people going to church. So we started dressing like we were going to go to church. We don't have to talk about that. We just talk like we're going to church. Okay, we wore those suits and stuff. So it has a lot to do with guerrilla theater, real art. And so I appreciate that because I think of myself in the deepest part of me as a songwriter, singer. And I would love to have some more songs out there if I had the time. My voice has gotten bad from age and COPD, a lung disease. But other than that, I love the idea of music being a tool for revolutionary change.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We have another question in the chat from Diego Labrada, excuse me. Their question is, do you still see a need for a vanguard party? Do you still see a need for Marxism, Leninism? That was his question.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes. Vanguard Party's only purpose, in our analysis, was to be a strong, tight force. We were a paramilitary organization. When you say I'm the chairman of the party, that means I'm in charge, okay? And I didn't play, and nobody played with me. So, you know, you'd be proud, you sisters would be proud to know how hard I was. Maybe that's another story. Yes, and the reason is because right now we don't have that kind of organizing effort here, there, and everywhere. We're broken up by space, by you know, just by the fact that the country is so damn big. And we did not have a chapter in Arizona. I thought we had something in Arizona. We actually had a chapter in places like, I mean, I was amazed, like Nebraska, but then I thought, okay, Omaha, Malcolm X, I kind of got that. I mean, we had chapters in places I didn't know black people even lived. But we never had anything in Arizona. I checked on it today, and we didn't. So it might have been too white at the time, but now black people, more and more blacks or whatever. But I think it's a need for a vanguard party for people to really make a decision that I am committed to this work 24 hours a day. Now, maybe you can't do it 24 hours a day, but in other words, that is your sole focus. As your focus is the liberation of black people. I attempted to resurrect such an organization here in Oakland, but I cannot tell you how trifling people can be when it comes to their time. They have now dedicated themselves to whatever irrelevant lives they're living, and that's what I think of it, most of them. You know, well, I have to go here and do this. Well, okay, right, but you can't put any time into creating any kind of program. So what happens is if you can find a core of people that can act as a vanguard, that can begin to make a move, then you can have broad-based groups that you interact with. But if you've got a strong agenda and you can build up your agenda, then I think it's necessary. But I also think that it's necessary that we do not get involved in the questions of violence and nonviolence. We are living in a society that was built on violence and rape of our people. And we have to be able to and be willing and get back to the question of self-defense in a very organized fashion, not one where we're going to die every day over this, but that's all part of it. And so that vanguard party has to set the example, has to organize the people. So I do believe in it, and I'm absolutely a communist with a small c. There's no way in hell. I'm not standing for the flag. I don't have nothing to do with the capitalist structure here. You got banking, every single one of these things, including the vaccines that Bill Gates and Melissa Gates have distributed. 9 of the pharmaceutical companies that are the biggest ones, their foundation is invested in. And most of the ones that have turned out the coronavirus vaccine they all in Africa helping the little Africans in the bush with polio or with some other thing that they claim they're doing. There's something like we have to be able to undo. There's so many avenues, so many things we got to do. But if we can stay focused on our people, and we certainly want to ally ourselves and not allies like, oh, white people are here to help me. White people are not going to help you. They need to be directed, if anything. But if they're there because of themselves, not because they think they're helping you, but because they're there, then you begin to organize bit by bit. So I do think that, and I believe in it, and I tried to do it here in Oakland, but it was a failure. It was a failure because these people are not willing to put in time. Here I am, older than everybody that I was dealing with, much older, and they did not want to put in the time. So I think that if you can get a group of people that are ready to get down, they're ready to be disciplined, they're ready to get out into the street or out into the community or whatever, then I absolutely think there's a need to have an organizing body that will begin to bring everybody in under one agenda, and that agenda is liberation.
Thank you, Sister Elaine Brown. We appreciate that one. And so we just kind of had a question about like some of your, and just general, some of your thoughts as well too, on holding folks accountable in organizing spaces when they cause harm to another organizer or another community member. We know a lot of the times conflict comes up and like a lot of us consider ourselves abolitionist organizations and don't want to just cancel people and throw them away and just be done with them. But like when real harm gets caused, how do we handle like accountability and conflict? It's just a little bit of beef sometimes over on this end, but like how do we have those important conversations with each other and build?
You guys are very nice. I'm gonna just tell you this. In the Black Panther Party, for good or ill, in those early days especially, we had corporal punishment. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Now people if you would be absolutely shocked at the stuff that we did and didn't do. But let's just say you're a guy, I'm gonna use an example. Guys on watch, and we had to be on watch all the time. Now you're on there cleaning a shotgun while you're on watch and you shoot your dumb ass in the foot, okay? This is something that we're going to come down very hard on you. Why? Because you had a duty to not bring attention to the fact that we have guns in the building that you're supposed to be protecting. You know what I'm saying? And you shot yourself. Now we have to figure out how to take care of you. When you go to the hospital with a gunshot wound, what's going to happen? The police will show up. So look at all the things that you just did. Now, we wouldn't even let you go to the hospital half the time. Oh, you shot yourself? So we had what we called under Maoist theory, criticism and self-criticism. Now, it's not easy to have criticism and self-criticism, but everybody got to buy into the rules. And you do have to have some rules about how you want to operate and function. So, for example, you cannot go, like we said, you can't steal, as Mao said, these are Mao's rules. We used everything we could. You can't steal from the people. I know you're not involved in robbing somebody's house in the community because we're going to have to beat your ass for that. Now, that's just a simple truth. And we might do it in front of the community so everybody gets the drill. And here's what your recourse is. You can leave town. That's it. That's it. And I will tell you the truth, and this is a true story, and I can say this on the recording because I don't have, there's a whole lot of reasons why there wouldn't be any problem with this for me. But we had a sister back in the day in the party who was raped by some brother from the neighborhood. And the reason we did, because she had an African name that we only knew her African name, but he called her by her government slave name. So we knew it was somebody who knew her before this. And we searched the community, and we searched by some rough methodologies, let me put it like that. And we were able to uncover this person, and we dragged him into the street and held trial right then and there. And it didn't last long, guilty. So, and we really, what we call mud holding back in the day. I don't know if that's a term anybody knows today. But we did it openly in the street, and we let everyone in that community know this is what happens to rapists. So there are things like this that you have to deal with. And sometimes you got to be pretty rough. You can't come up here and be like, I had a guy working with us on the farm, and we had a farmer who was our main farmer. She was a master gardener. She wasn't formally incarcerated, but she was organizing our farm. And this brother called her a black bitch. I said, oh, you call somebody a black bitch for real? I said, call me a black bitch. So it goes like that, okay? So sometimes you have to be serious, and you can't mess around with people and just have discussion about why did you say it? I don't care why you said it. What happened to you? Do you feel bad about it? It's like, I don't care. There are things you violate, you have to be checked. If you can't be checked, you have to be put out. That's the end of it. But if you keep on allowing, you can't be what Mao called liberal. Liberalism can't be allowed. Why? Because for the sake of peace and friendship, you don't want to destroy the friendship. Well, I don't have any permanent friends or permanent enemies. I have permanent principles. If you were my friend for 30 years and you go out here and I find out that you've been informing on our people, that'll end that friendship just like that. It didn't take but a second. And that's how you have to think. What are our principles? What are the things that matter to your group? That if you're operating on these revolutionary principles and somebody's violating it by insulting us, by not being a comrade. I had a brother walk up to me when I took over the reins of the party and actually say these words, I hear we can't call them bitches no more. I was like, no, we cannot call them bitches no more. But you know what I'm saying? So we have rules and we have things that are principles that we have to live by. And if people are not willing to be guided by that, then they can't be in the group because they will disrupt the group. The COINTELPRO program was about disruptors. It was about people coming. William O'Neill, I don't want to talk about that movie. William O'Neill came into the party as an FBI agent, interloper, and an informant. William O'Neill started a whole program of disciplining people that were suspected of being snitches. Now think about it for a minute. Here he was, the biggest one, started creating all this havoc. So, but nobody examined it because he was from the street, so they figured, okay, he's fine, yada, yada. So what I'm saying to you is, be careful of, wolves in sheep's clothing. Be careful. That's not to be paranoid, because you don't want to be paranoid and say, well, what did she say? What did he say? Well, I didn't hear. Where did he go? I don't know. You don't want to go down that path because that's another pathway to divide you. But when people do something wrong, the easiest way is to sit in a circle in a group and say, we're going to criticize you. You can defend yourself. We're going to have self-criticism. I can criticize me. If I can stand here and tell you that I admit that there was a time when I didn't even acknowledge that I was black, do you know how long it took, how hard it was for me to write that sentence in my book? It was hard as hell. Hard as hell. So you have to have criticism and self-criticism. Look here, brother. Look here, sister, comrade. You did this. It's a total violation. Do you not understand there's a violation? And then if we have to talk all damn night, then that's what we're going to do. Until you come to some agreement or get there stepping. You got any more time? I'm still here.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I could listen to you talk for hours.
You don't want to start down that path. You see, I talk too much.
I love it. Everything you said has been absolutely amazing. Also, people in the audience, I apologize if we can't get to your questions. We just have so many things everybody wants to say to Ms.
But you know one thing, if you were to collect them, I would communicate with you or Miranda, whoever, and try to answer some of those questions, at least by audio. I don't want to rewrite anything out for somebody's paper, because I get these college students that say, I just have 10 questions. Oh, that would be your whole paper. So I'm supposed to write your paper for you. No, I ain't going down that path. Read my book is what I say when you try to ask me stuff like that. So yeah, I'd be happy to look over and, you could record me at a later date and give it to them or whatever you want to do. I'm really easy. I'm one of the most accessible people I know.
That's perfect because we actually have a list of questions for you. So
Okay.
definitely send that over your way. And so I kind of have two questions for you. One, because what you talked about kind of piqued my interest. What was it like being a woman in leadership in the Black Panther Party? And our second question comes from the audience, from someone named Justice Now. Said, Dr. Brown, I know it's Miss Brown, but your awesome work. Do you think Black people are confused and being gaslit by sentiments of white ignorance to racism?
Wait a minute. Would you repeat the question?
Of course. Do you think Black people are confused and being gaslighted with sentiments of white ignorance to racism?
And being, what was that verb? Being what by?
Gaslighted.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't want to get it wrong. Does somebody else specifically know what it means?
That's why I didn't understand it, because I'm not.
Gas.
What do they mean by gaslighted? Does anybody know?
Gaslight, to manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. If they're right or wrong.
Right. Okay, I get. Thank you, brother. All right. So, on being a woman in the party, I mean, a lot of people ask this question because they think that the party was filled with thugs and people who were chauvinists and whatever. But what amazes me is that it suggests that the women in the party weren't revolutionaries, and we were. So it's kind of insulting to us. And secondly, it's like, what? I'm somebody's. I'm trying not to be too crude. I'm just going to take an ass whipping or be treated badly. It's like, are you insane? You think I was in the Black Panther Party to be abused by men? Thirdly, we were strapped just like a man. It wasn't a sister in the party wasn't strapped. I carried a 38 up until the time I moved out of the country, but that's another story. So my point is, anybody, if you were to see any man in the Black Panther Party right now, they called me chairman. They didn't even call me chairwoman, chairperson. I was called Chairman Brown. So my point is, yes, we had chauvinism. We didn't get these brothers from revolutionary heaven, and we didn't come from revolutionary heaven. We came from a paradigm of patriarchy and racism and capitalism. How were they going to suddenly become revolutionary scholars? They weren't. They took attitudes. They had, this is my bitch and all that other kind of stuff. And we said stuff, and we relegated ourselves to certain roles that we thought we were supposed to in the beginning. Huey Newton used to say, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm just a plain born child. A lot of men didn't like that too much, because they wanted him to be a man. As a matter of fact, Huey Newton in 1970, before he got out of prison, stated that that he analyzed that the Black Panther Party had to recognize that the homosexual, as he put it at the time, was an oppressed person, and that we understood the homosexual, and therefore we embraced the liberation struggle for gay liberation. Now, gay liberation was the way we called it then. We don't even talk about gay liberation anymore. They just want to be gay. They don't even want to have liberation. They just be gay. So anyway, so we were the only Black organization that recognized that gay liberation and then women's liberation were part of our agenda. Very few people said that. Now imagine why somebody would ask me about what it was like to be a woman in the sense of what, was I oppressed? Did I have to struggle? Yes, I struggled, but so did a lot of men struggle, and so did a lot of other women. But the sisters that in the party are some of the baddest sisters you ever gonna meet. I just can't begin to explain to you how tough you had to be in the Black Panther Party 24 hours a day. And most of us ultimately evolved at a certain level. Our goal was to evolve, to become revolutionary in our culture within the Black Panther Party. We were from the street. We were from the United States patriarchal, racist, capitalist system. Where were we going to get any kind of other cultural norm? So we attempted to do that by many, many ways. Brothers cooked, sisters held security. People were artists. I mean, Emory was an artist, and yet you still had to have, everybody had to hold security. Everybody had to sell papers. We didn't get any break because the women were like the little women, whatever. Everybody did everything, but most of your assignments, and you were assigned, it was a paramilitary structure. If you were assigned to a job, it was because you're probably better at that job. But you didn't have a lot of choices about the job. But fundamentally, you had to sell papers. You had to clean up, you had to study. Those are things you had to do. I don't care what you were. We didn't have gender assignments, in other words. Now, we had chauvinists, we had a whole bunch of stuff. We didn't allow it. You know, if you talk to some sisters like Phyllis Jackson or Donna Howe, these are bad sisters. Well, nobody been to jump on someone. I wish you would think you were going to jump on me. So it was, the Black Panther Party was just a strange entity, but it wasn't like, nobody ever asked the NAACP why they never had a woman in leadership. SCLC never had a woman in leadership. You follow me? So yeah, we had women, but the women were just as bad. There was no, I would say that the sisters that were in the party were so cold-blooded. I mean, I talked, a lot of us are still alive. And, you know, they'll laugh and tell you something. I wish that Negro would do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. So, and we're like that in the street today. I'm like that today. Old as I am, you know, my attitude is, what you gonna do? I know you're not better than me, because you know why? I lived this long to tell the story, okay? And I've been through hell and back. And as I used to say back in the day, you don't see no cuts on my face, which was a badge of honor when you grew up in North Philly, where I grew up, where you could get cut, sliced with a razor blade. So no, I would say that being a woman in the party, we were the minority. And some people like to say we weren't, but that's not true. We were the minority. We loved our brothers. They loved us. We didn't really, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how incredibly free thinking we were in the Black Panther Party. I mean, people, remember, this was the era of sex, drugs, and rock and roll also. So there was a whole other thing going on. But in essence, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to the universe that I was born in a time when I could be a member of the Black Panther Party, that my significance in life, that if you remember me, you will remember me because I was in the Black Panther Party. That's all I can say. Now, on the other thing, affecting our minds, well, I talked about that from the beginning. We have embraced everything this white man has taught us, unfortunately. It's hard not to. Like people say, I never heard about that when I was in school. Well, no, who's writing a story about Thomas Jefferson as a, who's writing a story about Thomas Jefferson as a racist slaveholder? You know, you got that in your little American history books. They still talking about George Washington never told a lie, you know, stuff like that. I mean, am I right? Aren't kids still learning stuff like this in like elementary and junior high school? I mean, we're not learning about, when do you learn about the Black Panther Party? You know, we don't get real information and we have no other resources. So we have only been inculcated with the ideas of a person that thinks that they are superior, inherently superior. I have to, every day of my life, I feel, if I step out of my house, and in coronavirus times, it's not that often, I'm going to have a problem with some white person. At the most minimal contact, getting out of my car, going into a little grocery store, some white person is going to think they have some type of privilege or superiority. And then I have to make a decision. Am I going to cuss this person out and have a whole issue going on? Or do I have to eat this today? What is it that I have to do every day? Every day. So when you are bombarded like this every day with white superiority and sense of supremacy, every little teeny thing, and this, I hate people that spend a lot of time on vignettes, but I have to tell this. So I'm in a market. All I'm buying is some cheese and stuff to have a little meeting at my house. I got to hurry up. I don't have time for two. It's a Whole Foods, right? Give me the little cheese, give me some grapes, give me some wine. I'm going home. I'm standing in front of a big bin of cheese. White woman walks up to me and says, could you move? Now, this was the moment where I could have just said nothing and kept on going. I said, and I have to cut out all the cursing I did. I said, I know goddamn well, now this is the light part. I know goddamn well you didn't just say that to me. Did you actually say that? Oh my God, I just want to get something. I said, well, guess what? So do I. Step away. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. Went and got the manager. Manager comes over. I said, I know you're not going to speak to me about, because now I'm not moving. I'm locked down. I'm like, I'm going to buy all the cheese. And if I don't, I'm going to mess up a whole cheese display because I'm capable of that. So don't say anything else. Nobody say anything to me. She's just refusing to move when I asked her. I said, that's right, and I'm refusing to move now. Then the manager was like, ma'am, I can't do anything. Just wait until she's finished, yada, yada. Goes and gets a security guard with a gun. Oh, I took out my phone. You know, I can never figure out how to record, by the way, but I act like I'm recording. So I took out my phone. Oh, I know this is not going to be one of those police incidents where you think you're going to put your hand on me, because it's not going to end up like that. You understand? You are never going to get to your gun. That's not going to happen. The best thing for you to take this white girl away from me. Now this, to get some cheese. I didn't even want 4 items. I just wanted cheese, you know what I'm saying? And it's every day. So when you are bombarded by this sense of privilege and supremacy every day, you start believing, unless you got some kind of history and something to bolster you, you start believing, I should have moved for this white woman. And it's the little stuff that creeps in until by the time you get to be an adult or whatever, you have embraced a philosophy and an ideology and a way of thinking that denigrates and demonizes even your own people and your own family and yourself. You don't like the way you look. You hate yourself. You hate how you look, how you talk. You hate everything. You don't talk like that in front of a white man. You know, white people in the room, everybody gets quiet. We get into the white thing. You know, it's like, yeah, girl. And then next thing you know. And what I was thinking, you know, we have our white boys. We all know we have our white boy. We have our white boys, right? So my point is, we used to say back in the day, I'm just trying to be black in a white man's world. And it's very difficult because it is not our world. Remember, that's what my theme was. It's not our world. And we got to make it our world. So for me, it's not bizarre that we have ended up very confused about what we ought to be going for. They're like, remember the whole thing on the Black Lives Matter marches after Breonna Taylor and after it was like, they're the good protesters. You remember that? The nonviolent protesters and the bad protesters, right? Because white people define for us which one of us was good and bad. Now, we don't mind the peaceful protesters. We love them. We love Black Lives Matter as long as you don't get violent. Now, there are the bad people, and they are violent, and they are throwing rocks, and they're doing this, and that's something. And so now you find people actually saying, I don't mind peaceful protests. Who the hell are you to define what the hell I'm going to say? We already have bought into that. Well, let's not make the white man mad now. Don't get out of line. Don't do no weird stuff. I told you at some point, maybe I didn't say this in the general conversation, but here in Oakland, we had a little teeny uprising over George Floyd. Somebody tore down, they went to the Honda dealership. Now, there's a Mercedes dealership. You think they'd go in there, right? But no, they went to the Honda dealership. But anywho, they went to the Honda dealership. And I think they get one car at least. They broke out the windows. Excuse me. They broke out the windows and they stole a car maybe or something like this. And then they tore up the Target that was on Broadway. They just went down the same little street, right? Broadway, a main artery in Oakland. I cannot tell you about the Black people that I ran into the next day that could not talk because they were so upset that their Target had been destroyed. I'm so confused by that, I can't even begin to tell you. I am confused by Black people being confused, as you say, the gaslighting issue, right, Brother Desmond? How you could be Black and be confused. You're upset, but why would we do this to the Target that employs so many Black people for like 10 cents a minute? You know what I mean? Whatever it is. And I'm thinking, I hope that they take something from the Target, because it's not a hell of a lot to take. Wasn't even a big Target, where you could go get like a heater and some big stuff. You can't get no big stuff from this particular Target, with a small Target. And then you had the elected officials telling me, I worked hard to bring Target to that corner, and look what Black people have done to it, which might not have even been Black people, but who cares? Like, you're really agonizing over a Target. So we become so inculcated with what is right and wrong with our behavior that we're not afraid to even act on our own. We got to think about, is this all right with white people? Now, the only thing I think we have to think about is, Am I going to get a case from this? That's what I was telling you young people from Black Lives Matter, don't get no case. It's called you got to do some stuff where you don't get a case. You follow what I'm saying? Now that's the best I can do for you guys as of today. Don't get a case. But other than that, let's just try to get past the definition of who we are according to some white reporter. Here's Chris Cuomo. Now your brother done gone down on hiding dead people. But you know what I'm saying? And you out here talking about what's wrong, what's right, and who are the good marchers, and you and Don Lemon having a love affair, talking about who's the good black, and Van Jones, we can't speak about that. So we don't have any spokespeople. Look at Van Jones. That's a goddamn disgrace. You know who I'm talking about when I say Van Jones? You know his ex-wife was Billy Carter's daughter. Now you got to look that up to see what I mean. So anyway, my point is we have to redefine ourselves, and it's very hard because you are overwhelmed by day-to-day bombardment of racism and a sense that white people have, day-to-day little minor white people. White people don't even have anything, think they're better. So you got, like, you know, all these little viral videos that you see where, did you see that sister where the white woman called her a nigger and she took her purse, had her purse in one hand and just wore that woman out with the other hand. It was just absolutely fabulous. But anyway, she had like a little designer purse on her one arm, and she just wore that woman out with the other arm. But anyway, this is what we have to make choices about every day. And that's why we have to be careful about choosing the fights, being strategic. But on a day-to-day basis, it's hard as hell to be bombarded by the amount of racism and not begin to think in terms of what you've got. The news media, you've got all this other stuff that bombards you with the ideas of racism, that you begin to embrace it and you begin to feel like you're not okay. That's the truth. We take one more or what? What do you guys want to do?
Oh, we'll be here all night if you let us, but time. But if we can do it,
look, you don't know me, see. I can hang in there now. Go ahead. Do you want to do one or two more questions, Lexi or Miranda, whoever? Desmond, go ahead.
I got one. I want to go back to this idea of a trend of successful Black people rising in their social status, but not necessarily giving back to their communities. How big is this trend? Is it a lot of Black entrepreneurs, or this is a small group that's still bringing up this distinction and this division?
Well, I think it's everybody who's made any real money because they think that it's their money, they earned it, and whatever dumbass ideas they have. I keep telling them, you are there because we died. That's it. Okay. Now, and I can make that, linkage immediately, but there has to be a sense of duty. And what I see in elected officials, what I see in people who made a little bit of money and think they're rich, and some people who are actually rich, because, once you get past that 5 billionaires in America and Black billionaires, and then you drop down to a few millionaires, and then it gets rough. Because it's really, it's not that many people up in that stratosphere. You got your entertainers, which includes sports figures, right? It's like, okay, well, LeBron James, you wore a George Floyd shirt. Or the people in the Warriors, I love them. They said they weren't going to play one night, but they played the next night. You know what I mean? Let's not get it twisted. We ain't going to really lose money, okay? So we won't play one night because we're protesting. And then to see what's this chick's name that's out of Vallejo playing America the Beautiful at the goddamn Super Bowl? What planet are you on, okay? What's her name? Her. Singing America the Beautiful. Now, Colin Kaepernick done almost died over taking one knee, and all these Negroes done shown up now, 2 minutes later. Oh, we're all okay because we can take a knee, or their white man's allowing us to do this, and I'm going to sing America the Beautiful. Really? Not to count the sister that sang with the country star. What did she sing? The Star Spangled Banner. I said, I'm through. I am through. At what point do you make a decision that you have a Black agenda? So what has happened is These people see themselves as being okay and embraced by America, so they don't have any further duty to Black people, not economic, not social. Look, I'll make a few statements, I'll wear a t-shirt, but that's as far as I'm going. Let's not get crazy and have me giving up money. Nobody's asking you to give up your wealth, but don't you think you could start a little business, create some housing, do some stuff for the people, and help other people who are already doing stuff so that they can be bolstered, so they don't have to go to figure out where to get money from? You got enough money to bolster what's going on in Phoenix and give them some money so they got some wiggle room and they can be dedicating all their time rather than worry about how they're going to pay rent and all that other stuff. So stuff like that must happen. And I don't see anybody who's laid out an agenda that is in any popular field, because remember, we're only really talking about entertainers. Negroes are still in the minstrel show of America. We entertain America. We shooting baskets, we playing football, and we singing and dancing. And America is saying, thank you, we love this stuff, and we're gonna let you record on our label or whatever it is, but we're not committed to this. Now, what will make them committed is when some youngsters like you guys say, look, the next time I see you talking about what you want to do, we expect you to start contributing to the community. Now, we used to call it tithing. You could tithe, you know what I'm saying? But start contributing to the community. And when you don't, we're going to put you on some type of list. You know, back in the day, the Black Panther Party, we had a section of our paper called the Bootlickers Corner. Now, the last thing you wanted to do is find yourself in the Bootlickers Corner. You did not want to be in the bootlickers, because I would have put like Lil Wayne in the bootlickers corner, right? But you know, I'm just using him because he's an easy example, right? And you say, now here he is talking about he's not Black, he's rich. Now this is shameful. And so what we did was we were able to get a lot of people, nobody wanted to be in the bootlickers corner, so a lot of people started acting better. You follow what I'm saying, Desmond? In other words, they were like, oh, I don't want to be up there, but let me start making some contributions to who's doing some work in Arizona. You know what I mean? And minimally give myself, if I have to make a little contribution, well, that's fine. Well, go ahead. Give me $1 million. That ain't going to hurt you. I'd form a little nonprofit and give you a tax write-off on top of it. We want to build some housing. We're thinking about putting up, something, whatever we're getting ready to do. We need your money. We asked Hoobie Boo, and she or he said no. Uh-oh. I think we're going to have to make note of that. You didn't want to make a contribution. You had plenty of money. You had plenty, but people get scared too. They don't want to be messing with no Jay-Z, like, you know, what Jay-Z going to do? Kill somebody? He's too busy being an American right now. Same thing with the rest of them. So I think that, you know, we have to look at the resources that we had so we can build up our other resources. And the resources we have are on the basketball courts, on the, whatever it is, the fields, whatever it is. They got little corporate leadership and they feel like, well, they hired some Black woman. They covered two things, a Black and a woman. We got a Black woman. She's the head of HR. She's always the head of HR. So, I see a lot of stuff in the chat room. Was I supposed to see that? But anyway, that's my position on our having to use the people that have gained wealth to begin to contribute to the community. They have to be brought out, because you don't want to give any money. I don't care about your little food giveaway on Thanksgiving. Hell, every dope boy was doing that back in the day, throwing out some turkeys. You know what I mean? What does that mean? You know what I'm saying? So you can't do the Thanksgiving two-step and think that's your contribution. You got to do something that will matter, that will help us to advance a cause. And it's not enough for you to wear a t-shirt on the goddamn basketball court that says Black Lives Matter. That ain't enough. Then contribute something to a program, to an agenda, create something, even if you don't have to lose no money from it. You're not going to lose anything. Nobody's trying to take all your money and move you out your $20 million house. What nobody's saying, you can go on and have that, even though. But how do you know that this many of your people don't even have a place to live, and you don't mind living in a $20 million house? You really don't? You don't have any sense of any minimal duty to create something for your people? Because you're like, well, my people didn't put me here. I won this because I worked hard. No, you didn't. LeBron, you came in, your mother was 14 coming out the projects. And the only reason you where you are is because you just a big Negro, okay? And you can play basketball. And we're happy with that. And he does good stuff over there in Akron, Ohio. I'm not saying he doesn't do anything, but it's all that little like basketball theme, little t-shirts and stuff. I got white boys at the age that'll do more than that. So we need to talk about uniting our money, We don't have no agenda for that.
That actually goes into my question.
Hi there.
For your words. When it comes to us lifting up our community, how did you guys go about that? And was there a certain strategy? Also, when it comes to, what was the other question? Oh yes. Also, how would we be able to branch out to our African brothers and sisters?
You and on the continent? Yeah. Well, remember we had one good on that part. There were organizations then. Right now things are so messed up on the continent. You know, the Nigerians and just sold out everything to Exxon just about, right? But the people still living like dirt. But the oil fields are overtaken by the American. Then you have AFRICOM, you know, all of that. As to here in the United States, I'm gonna just tell you the truth. And since we're having this kind of conversation and you guys are still hanging in here with me, when we started our breakfast program, for example, we said, all right, we need a place to have a breakfast program. We didn't have any place. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any place to even have a meeting just about. We just meet over there. Was a place called the Black Congress in LA. And we had a room that they let every Black organization have. And they were like, they were probably getting a lot of government money to undo a lot of stuff. But barring that, we had an office there. And then eventually we got our own office deep in the hood. That was in the hood too. But so we would say, well, we got to get food for breakfast every day for children. And we would be like, well, where are we going to get the food from? We don't have any money. So we would go to the local store and say, we would like to get a dozen eggs from you every day. And they would say, I can't do that. We would say, well, how do you feel about having no store? And so that would really be how we did it, if you want to know the truth. People said we were extortionists. And we would say, one man's extortionist is another man's liberator. So be gone. So we had a church. We in LA, I can't tell you how hard no Black church wanted to have a Black Panther Party breakfast program in it. They were like, oh no, I ain't got nothing to do with the Panther. Oh no. You know, I said, oh, you acting like Peter did with Jesus. You don't know us, you know? So, all right. So we finally found a church in LA. This is a great vignette that exemplifies what I'm saying. That was a Seventh-day Adventist church. And we didn't know, but the guy said, you can use our church, you're welcome. We were like, oh my God, we're so thankful. He said, but you know, we don't eat meat, so you can't cook meat in here. And you don't eat meat. Now, you remember, I'm talking about 1969. For Black people, breakfast is meat. As a matter of fact, breakfast is pork. It's pork chops, it's bacon, it's sausage, it's ham. You can't have no real hot breakfast without some pork. So we're thinking, what are we going to do? So I swear to God, we found this stuff in 1969 called veggie burgers. Now that may seem common to you today, but it was a big roll and it was like soybeans and beans. You know, it was really nasty. But anyway, when we cut it up and put it into patties, so it looked like it was a sausage patty, and we put a lot of onions and peppers and else, and we cooked it, and we tried to pretend that we had sausage, and the kids in the beginning, the children would be like, what is this? We said, it's meat, just eat it. You know, they were like, this is not meat. So how did we do it? Was cook or crook. We made a decision. When we were given an order by central headquarters, you better have a clinic open, and you got 1 month to open a clinic. Now tell me how we did it. I don't know. Took over a vacant building, cleaned it up. What you gonna do, slumlord? Come down here and say something? No. So we took over a building, and we cleaned it up. And then we got doctors, mostly white doctors, from UCLA who were interns and stuff, to give us 2 hours here, 2 hours there. After a while, we had an 8-hour-a-day clinic free to the people. It was clean. We got people trained, and it was a wonderful clinic. But what we did was we delivered something that people wanted by hook or crook. The one thing about the Black Panther Party that I love today, that I always tell people is we made goals, we made decisions, and then we just said, we don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to get here. And that's how we did it. Same thing with the free breakfast, same thing with everything else. You have to sell 400 newspapers. You don't know how to sell 400 newspapers? Well, you better get to stepping because the day is moving on and you got 400 to sell. That's how we had a little bit of regular income. As we got bigger, we started businesses of our own. People were like, oh, the Black Panthers own a club. We did own a club, but that money went into, we spending so much money for our school that our school was free. So we began to develop economic ways of making money. Some of them were legal, whatever that means, and some of them were not so legal. But the bottom line was we were able to keep our agenda moving by making goals, by coming up with strategies, and each chapter did something maybe slightly different, but every chapter in the Black Panther Party, you better have a breakfast program. You can't sit up here and talk about you can't have a breakfast program. You got to have one. Matter of fact, you need to have more than one, but you got to have at least one. You got to get your free clinic up and running, brother. We had New York chapter had a free ambulance service out of Harlem. Now, you know that wasn't easy because you know ambulances don't come to the hood. Call an ambulance and be in the hood and see if it comes to see about you. It's like the police not coming. So we adapted. North Carolina had something different chapters, different branches did different things. But in all, these are the things that we all agreed that everybody had to do, and everybody just figured out a way to do it. And without getting, a case, although we have had some strange things happen in the past. But so that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what we did. We just had to make a decision to do something and then say, okay, how will we do it? We don't know. Can we get a contribution from people? Can we go and it's like I was telling you about the swimming pool question. All right, let's just say you want to start a program for kids, Black children, to learn how to swim, because our children do die in the large numbers from drowning. We have the largest deaths, Black children. So let's just say you wanted to do that, and there you have Campus X that's got a nice swimming pool. So you just make a decision. You go to the campus, you say, we'd like to use your swimming pool. They're going to say, no, you cannot use it. That's what they said. That's about food. They said, you cannot have it. We said, okay. So, and now you have to figure out some other stuff. But you don't want to get a case necessarily. And you do want to accomplish what you accomplish, right? So I'm so happy that you want to know what and how, because that's more important than that you do it. It's more important to talk about how can we do this? Do you have ideas? And I do. And I was hoping that somebody would pick these things up before I died. And people are doing different things, but they got to get a little more hard. They got to get a little stronger and a little tougher, and don't take too much shit from anybody.
Yeah. So
Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?
Can we do just one more question before you go?
Miranda, help a sister. I'm talking to Desmond. I'm talking to Black Lives Phoenix. Which one? What do you want to do? Go Desmond, and then you last?
Yeah, if we could just do one more question before you go, that would be great.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it. I just want to know if they're at end. Is Desmond going to ask a question? What were you pointing to?
No. Let Black Lives. Let them be the last one.
Yeah, this will be the last question.
Yeah, we promised last one.
All right.
So for our last question, we're wondering, we know that, in the movement, in the Black Lives Matter and just in general, we have a lot of white allies that kind of like to jump on the train and, try to take over in some way or even, just be as allies and supporters. But how would you recommend that we radicalize more Black people to join the movement?
Well, the thing about white people is you can't have them in your organization. You just have to keep them out, seriously. You don't even need allies. You don't need them to be your friend. You need Black people. White people need to organize white people. Look at all these crackers that ran up into over here and over there. Get them white people over there with them and let that go. I told you we had a coalition, not just an ally, a coalition with a group called the Young Patriots. They were under us. They took orders from Fred Hampton. He started that. But they started their little breakfast programs in the poor, trashy ass white neighborhoods of Chicago. The same white people that drove Martin Luther King out, the same white people that call us nigger. But they organized around housing. And as a result, we had the same agenda. But they didn't come into our business. They didn't have no vote, anything. I don't care. You can't help me unless you got some money. Now you can help me with money. That's the only thing white people could do for it. There were people like I've known people who were in the party who like to pretend that we had black members, white members. We never had anything but black people. Huey was very, very clear. And I'm sure I can find that videotape of him saying we will have nothing but black people in this organization. Why? Because white people inevitably think they have an opinion that's better than yours, or they're going to be disruptive. You have to keep them out of anything that you are doing. They can, it's like I see white people riding around here, riding by a goddamn in homeless encampment talking about Black Lives Matter. Really? You go over there to where the white people are that will kill us. Go on up in there to Montclair with that shit. Organize some white people somewhere. Go down, send them down to Kentucky or somewhere with the Proud Boys, which I don't even know what that is. But you know what I'm saying? Let them deal with white people because white people are the majority in America. You don't need them in your business. You don't need them to give you some little food and think they're going to interact with you because the next thing's going to happen, they're going to be in bed with a lot of your folks. Trust me on this one. Now, I hate to be crude. And this is the most I can do with that. Uh-oh, somebody's giving me the thumbs up on it. But I'm telling you, I don't even want to go there. But the history is such that you can't afford to have white people engaged in your decisions or anything. Now, what do they mean by allies? Form your own group. Go on down there. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to be my ally. Here's what you got to do. Go down there. Let them go and go get some money from the government. Let them do research, whatever it is, but not in your group. Don't make no decision. This is what you do. Or you can organize poor white people that are against us. All them gun-toting white boys from here, there, go on over there and talk to them about how we have a common ground issue of poverty. Y'all are poor. You some coal miners. There's no more coal mining. Get with the program. You ain't got no job. You walk around here poor as everybody. You down in the same situation with a black man. I'll give you a quick example. I was in Plattsburgh, New York, SUNY Plattsburgh, State University of New York, Plattsburgh. It ain't nobody black in Plattsburgh. If it is, I don't know where they are. And you had to go across a ferry and cross the river. And I get there and it's like 4 black people going to the school there and they're going to have me come and talk shit for them, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's an all white environment. So they want me to do the Black history piece. So I say, okay. So now what do? I run the line. I just do the straight Black history thing, slavery, yada, yada. So afterward, it's all white boys, caps all turn around, buzz cuts. I'm like, good God Almighty, where am I? Am I going to survive tonight? So they said, oh, well, you talk about Black people this and Black people that. But what about a person like me? I'm a white guy and I come from an intact family. The nerve of him to say that. I come from an intact family and I want to know if you're so busy talking about Black people, but don't you think it's unfair if I try to go to another school like Harvard, let's say, and they let a Black person in over me because he was Black, and don't you think that's unfair? I said, yeah, I think it's unfair, but not for the reason that you think. Here's why it's unfair. It's unfair because, first of all, you say you're middle class, but you're not middle class. You don't have any money. That's your problem. If you had any money, you could do like George Bush, go to Yale, just pay your way through Yale. You don't have any money. So that's why you're down here with Black people trying to get into a school. You're down here with me. Now, here's the solution. Both of us could go to school. Ain't nobody, I don't think I'm better than you or you're better than them, but they have made it an issue where if you don't have money, then we're going to compete with each other while Rockefeller sends his children to school for all the money. We don't worry. So yes, it's unfair, but I'm not the problem. The problem is the people that keep both of us down. And you know what they did? They took pictures with me. These are some poor ass white boys, okay? At some junior college, community college, whatever it is. I say that to say, once we flip white people around in America, not to be our allies, but to recognize this is their fight, then our situation will be different. But we've got to maintain control of our own institutions and our own thing, because at this moment in time, we're not on equal playing field. They do think they're superior. I don't care what you say. I mean, we had white people one time drink out of, I remember David here, a white girl came in from one of these Berkeley, we all in Northern California, Berkeley, whatever. And she opened his refrigerator and took a bottle of orange juice out and put it up to her mouth and drank out of it. Now that's the kind of stuff that causes me to go crazy. Or you thinking, well, Elaine, what? No, I don't even want you to call me Elaine. Okay, so I'm stopping you right there. You know what I mean? Stuff like this, just ignorant. But my point is, take charge of your organization. If they're there, I know I hear a lot of Black people talk about white allies. I'm not sure what these white allies do. Do they want to give you a car? Go ahead, give me a car. We need a car. You go take the heat on going and getting the swimming pool for the little Black children. Go write a check. I know you got some money in the bank account. We want you to do that. All of these kind of things, but you're not in the decision-making thing. And I ain't trying to beat you up because you ain't that deep. You just another little white person. So if I wanted to beat up somebody, I had to go down to the Defense Department. I had to go down to see Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or somebody. You ain't that bad. But you have the biggest thing you could do as a white person would be to go organize those people that will kill us. That's what you can do. That's my position. Is that sufficient for today, children? I so love this. This was so wonderful. You guys are so engaging. I know Miranda's like, I know goddamn well she's not still talking. And we lost one person. So anyway, Lexi, my sisters and brothers in the Phoenix Black Lives Matter, Brother Desmond, all of you who hung in there. I don't know where everybody might be. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to young people. I hate the word intergenerational because that would mean that something happened in my day that's not going on now, and it is going on. So it's contemporaneous. Even though I might be older and you're young, it's still the same thing. There's not no generational divide here. That's another one of those divisions. No, I'm not young. No, I can't do what you do. And I have experience that you don't have, but you have what I don't have, and that's youth. You have youth on your side. You have time, generally speaking. We would imagine. We don't want anything to happen to you. So just remember this, to fight and live to fight another day, and keep our people as a part of your, my thing is our people, not our personal identities. We are all Black people in this situation. And we are all the sons and daughters of a slave people that were treated so horribly that every single day I get up, I'm pissed off about something. I really am. I'm pissed off at something. And so I really can't go out of my house very often because I'm really nasty about a lot of shit. I get in little arguments with people and stuff. My daughter would tell you, she'll tell you that in all the years she was raised, just the last little quick thing, if I may. She told me at one point later in life, much later, she said, I was always afraid of you. I said, afraid of me? I was not a person that laid hands on my child. I never touched my child, never spanked her, I never did anything. Now I talk crazy, don't misunderstand me. I'd be like, you must want me to break your jaw, stuff like this. But I talk crazy, but I was really a pretty easygoing. But she said she wasn't afraid of me. As to her, she was afraid to go anywhere with me because I was always creating some type. There was going to be some shit if I hit the street. What I'm saying? Somebody was going to say something that was going to set it off. My favorite movie. Somebody was going to say something that was going to set it off. And I was going to get into an argument or a fight or throw something or slap somebody or do something really weird. And that child grew up with a person like me. I've since calmed down. I'm looking at my brothers and sisters there. I've calmed down to the degree where when I first came back to Oakland 10 years ago, I was able to get myself, prohibited from going into 5 restaurants. They had to call the police on me on one of them. I said, call your mammy, I'm not moving now. So, and I'm out here by myself too. That's how crazy I am. So just remember this, you got a long fight. Our people suffered a long time, but the fight is long. So you're going to try to do as many wins as you can. But remember, you got to still keep on fighting, even when it gets, as what the old song said. And when he got tired and couldn't fight anymore, he said, I'm going to fight anyway. We are soldiers in the Army. All right, brothers and sisters, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miranda.
Thank you.
All right, Miranda, cut me off. Do something with
Thank
me.
you so much, and lots of thanks coming from the chat.
I love everybody. All right, power to the people.
People.
I'm gonna put myself, I'm leaving. Should I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll keep it, Brenda, she knows how to get in touch with me, Miranda.